Still haven't got the timing down correctly, but we're getting closer and closer each week. I'm Jaemeel Robinson, joined with the wonderful Josh Foster, and here we are doing Big Brother Canada, episode 6, the nomination episode for week 2-ish. No Dave, no Mater Brothers, so this is a Mater Brothers free podcast right now. But they are in our thoughts. Uh, Jeff is probably having a good night tonight, off from D Space 9 at 9. And Dave is in the tropics enjoying some R&R. So it's us to carry the torch. Foster, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Jaemeel. Got to hold down the fort this week. Got to do a triple duty, back to back, as you would say. But it's gonna be a fun week. It's gonna be a Big Brother, of course. And you know what? I like how it started already. To be quite honest, I'm really happy with tonight's episode because I felt like a lot of the conversations that we're gonna get into tonight were driven towards a purpose, not just a lot of fluff, right? Like there was like talking about backstories or whatever. Like a lot of it was driven around like, this is how I'm looking at the game and perceiving it, and how I'm like, how it's evolving, right? And there was a lot of opportunity. There was a lot of instances where like Daniel was expressing how he's in the middle, right? Or Roberto understanding that he's on the chopping block, right? He knows that Zach went behind his back, right? Like there's a lot of awareness, it seems, and it's really nice to see because it not only kind of not only it doesn't shoot the game in one direction like it typically may do in past seasons, but it's kind of keeping the memory of like this could go either way right now. There's a lot of, like look whose nominations is tonight. Like, you know what I mean? Like how it swung so quickly, right? And as well as HOH, right? So, anyways, what are your
So,
thoughts?
okay, so I have a lot of thoughts. Once again, coming from a person who's a lot more involved with feeds, it's kind of hard to watch the show without the connective tissue. They're doing a better job, I will say, in terms of presenting a lot of the information. And it's a lot less goofy stuff being presented. Like, look, fashion shows can be fun for a segment, but I rather hear about what's happening in the house and what people are thinking about the dynamics of the house a lot more. That's what I'm more interested in. So the more that you can give me, the better it is for me. I think that a lot of information is being presented, but it's not necessarily being spoken aloud, and we're there to fill in the gaps. So for example, a lot of the thought process that we had for the first week was the boys alliance, and we would often include hope in it, but the show makes it a point to never include hope in those kind of conversations. We never seen a segment where it is Zach, Ty, Roberto, Jonathan, and Hope all together speaking at the same time. You might see Hope with Jonathan or Hope with Roberto, but we never see all of the group all together. And Hope is typically the one that's on the outs. He's talking more with Daniels, talking more with Zuki, right? Hope
And
has
they showed him a lot more tonight in that light, right? Like they showed him a
yeah.
lot more isolated and a lot more not only like physically separated from from the other guys, if you will, but mentally as well, right? Like
Yep.
you also like you have to remember too, he's 23 years old. Like I can say now, like to do that, like I can understand what he's in a sense, like the thoughts that may be going through his head in terms of like it being a lot for like his age and stuff, right? Mentally, right? Because all the other people are more mature, a lot older and stuff, right? But yeah, it's not yeah.
Okay. So let's get into the recap. So uh previously, uh previously we had JM who was eliminated, right? Santina was HOH, and now we have a new HOH. But first we have the competition. But even before that, kind of showing the aftermath of what happened. It's kind of hilarious seeing people cry when they didn't vote to save somebody, it's like bullshit crocodile tears, in my opinion. Right? It's like if you really cared for that person, you should have done more, right? And doing nothing, I don't think is really like like you're complicit in it, right? So you kind of have Renee kind of talking about this. She says it's way too early to draw a line in the sand, which I think doesn't make any sense because a line has already been drawn and she's on the other side of it, right? And it seems that her and other people recognize that, but they don't want to do anything to rock the boat.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
they're aware that there's like a core group of, I think, what, 4 or 5 of them at this point, and then there's a few that are attached, like, via, showmance or what have you, or like Claudia, right?
Yeah.
But there's there it's interesting because they're saying like we don't want to draw the line, right? But it's like the conversation that they're not showing is them saying we have the numbers right now, we can do something about it, but we don't have to do something about it just yet. You know what I mean? Because if they're showing these types of conversations, and they've got to have at least that conversation as well, right? They're just not showing it because that's the reality of the situation, right? Is that there's 14 house guests right now, right?
Yep.
And there's probably 7 or 8, right, that are kind of maybe would be majority, right? But that number is going to dwindle, right? But I'm not saying, but once again there's a core 4 or 5, right? So there's still a lot of numbers left that need to like, once again, as they're talking, be aware, as Daniel was talking about, right? That they're in the middle, right, and wake up.
I don't know if they want to wake up. That's the question,
Well, they don't
right?
want to play. They don't want to. Then they don't want to play the game, and then why are
But
they there? Right?
but
They're
we
just
we
there like,
learn in this episode that there's some people who are not there to play the game. Like Hope is there to win competitions, it seems, which like sure you can win competitions, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. What matters is if you win the money at the end of the game. That's why many of the people are playing.
oh, exactly, and I think that you go for title or you go for nothing, right? Obviously, you want to compete and stuff, but that's a big part of the game, or it can be, right, in
Yeah.
terms of your strategy, right? Because as they said about Zach tonight, it's like Zach's not winning any competitions, right? Which we're gonna get to, right, in
Yeah.
that HOH fund, because like that was, anyways. We'll get to it, but
Okay.
and
Well,
can I say something about the
you may.
go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, we'll be okay. Hold it there. Hold it there. I have a question.
Go ahead.
After they nominated after JM went out, right? Everyone is hugging and crying after he leaves, and I know they don't just do it for him. And it's like, why? Like, are they told to act that way? I don't understand, because it's like I can. You've known this person for 2 weeks. You're not sad they're gone. You're not upset, they're not your
Well, none of
best.
the guys were, right? But
None of the
like
guys, I just don't understand why they have to like.
it's part of the ritual of the show, right? That people do that. Now keep in mind, I can understand why some people were emotional because if you're Zanika, right? Sorry.
Anika.
Hazuki. Hazuki.
Oh,
If you're Zuki and like you're a fan of the show and you
koozie.
see how sad that JM is and how heartbroken that he's out of the game, I can understand you being emotional, right? But I'm not sure that everyone had a conversation or that connection with JM, right? So is it like I'm crying because you're crying kind of thing? It seems very disappointing.
Anyways, it's the stuff like that. Just like, who's that for? Like, why does it need to be there? Just like it, like you cutthroat, like you eliminated somebody, right? Why does it like have to be? Anyways, let's get to the HOH competition,
Okay.
shall
How'd
we?
you like this challenge?
You know what? It's funny because I thought it was a good one when they ended, like when they started it last Thursday, but then as they showed it and how easy it looked to get the picture, especially when they showed the scores, oh my goodness, that they would have made a ton, right?
Hmm.
And especially when Hope was making tens, right? So anyway, so yeah, I thought it was a good challenge, but it really separated the men from the women in terms of the endurance, right? It seemed, right, and because the whole half was except for Zach, right? But
Well, there was a woman in the top group though.
not well, except for Zach. That's what I'm saying. Like, they were swapped one person, I guess.
Okay, do you know who that one person was?
Uh,
Think about it. We'll come back to it. My
okay.
problem with this competition is maybe I'm just like one of those cheater players. And I say that in quotations. I.e. looking for an additional way to make things more difficult for people I want to go against. But what I didn't understand is if every ball, if every color, the color specifically for individuals there, I'm like, sorry, let me just take a pause here. Koozie. Koozie, Jaemeel. Koozie. Okay. Thank you, Sam, for the correction. If there are people that you're competing against and they have to only use their balls, why aren't you just taking their ball accidentally and moving it farther away or hiding it? Or if you're like, hey, we need to get Koozie to win, then maybe we should take Koozie's ball, right, for her and try to make it score so that she has a better chance of winning.
Oh, you're saying band together and try to team up with one person being the head of household. I That's an interesting theory, and I think that it's if any of them thought of it, it was too late, right? Because the problem is they don't know what's going into it, right? So they only have a certain amount of time to
It was
think
like an
about
hour.
it.
It was like an hour.
But I don't think that they're going to, because once again, like they didn't want to. Once again, just like Renee said, they didn't want to draw the line in the sand, right? So no, and just like with Ty and Claudia, um, no one's saying anything, right? So once again, like I understand what you're saying. It's a power move, but for me, it seems like the dust hasn't settled yet in terms of like there is a very clear alliance that's working towards eliminating threats in the game, right? That aren't a part of that group, and led by Zach. So with this challenge, there's not really much room for manipulating it in your way, especially on the fly. It's definitely an endurance challenge. Like I was, I was surprised that Dan won, but I wasn't surprised that. But sorry, but then I heard that he was a long distance runner when he was talking before, right? And I was just like, okay, well that really makes sense, right? Because the way they showed it, it didn't look like Dan was in the lead, right? But he he cleared the way though, right? It was impressive.
Okay. So, do you know who the top performing woman was?
Oh, we're still on that.
Yes, we're still on.
I looked at the top. I know Renee's at the bottom. I looked at the top and the bottom,
Okay. So I'm
and
going to
then
show you. So Dan wins.
yeah.
He clears. Right. The top score getters were Ty, Rob, and DJ Dan. And our actual breakdown of the scores featured good old Kuzi, number 7, with 1,000 points. Right.
It's not bad. Hope didn't do very well, but like once again, like if he was hitting tens, let's just say and give room for error. So he hit 100 and no, yeah, 110 times he went in an hour. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Right? So if that like I I'm trying to if I don't think I can do the math that quick, but like he was well off the pace though. Like it wasn't the strategy to go with obviously, and even if like Dan, it seemed like it was not in the lead. Like it seemed like Roberto and not even Ty. Like it just seemed Roberto was, and they focused on Hope as well, but he wasn't even that close. And but once again, separated by 300 points almost, and then separated by 300. But Dan was ahead by third place by 600 points. Like he crushed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Kuzi, like she was not. Once again, she was 100 points behind Dan. So that was what, like 5 trips, maybe 4 trips, and even Hope, right? So she I don't know. They didn't talk about it in the episode, but I can definitely see the girls talking and seeing her as a potential threat in terms of endurance, right? Because she was a lot higher than Shania and then Vanessa and the rest of them.
I just feel that I don't think they will see Kuzi as a threat, but as a potential physical a physical person
Just
to
endurance.
shift um things to their side, right? I think that's what they might see, as opposed to like we need to get her out because like what's happening here is they need someone who can win, right? And Renee, bless her heart, she can be as social as she wants to, but like you have to hold power, right? And right now she's not in a position to hold power.
Well, no, that's the problem, right? Like it's like it's funny because I didn't realize that, like, not before the like I didn't realize that Dan was so close with Zach, right? So it was like it took me a little bit of into the episode to realize that, like, oh great, it's another like Zach in the ear of the HOH week, right? But like look at Zach, 465 points. Like, did he even try? Like
I
I
don't think
don't understand.
he was throwing it. He threw it. He
Well,
practically
obviously
threw it.
Jonathan was killing himself, right? It looked like, and he placed fourth, and yeah, like just ridiculous.
So in terms of the Dan S Zach relationship, people kind of commented about how Zach is friends with everyone, and if Dan is a person that doesn't have many friends, that means if someone goes out of their way to make sure that they touch it, like keep in touch with you, then that can be perceived as, oh, we're close. When from Zach's perspective, no, we're not close. I'm just close to you. Now,
Yes.
um, I'm slowly catching up to the digital dailies. So in one of the first digital dailies, uh, there was a sequence with Dan and Zach and JM were having a conversation, and this is where JM was kind of mentioning that he was going to go after the boys. Now, because the reason why JM felt comfortable telling Zach this was Zach had worked on getting close to JM, right? And JM was trying to work with Zach, not knowing that Zach was already spoken for. And JM would make a lot of things when Dan was on the block. JM mentioned that he was going to try and win vetoes so he can take Dan off. And Zach was gaslighting JM, trying to say, why are you trying to like play so hard? You know, you're ruining it for yourself. Was really setting JM to think that he was possibly responsible for putting himself in that position because he was trying too hard. So, and Dan was a part of that sequence as well. So, if we saw the digital dailies, we would have known that relationship was already kind of being built from Zach. One other thing in terms of the challenge before I move off of it, um, why do the people look like they're from Krypton?
Oh, the
Looking
outfits
like
are
they're
awful.
dressed up as Superman too,
Outfits are
like they're Zod
terrible.
and company.
Supposed to be like trapeze artists or some shit. Like it's just awful. It's
Okay,
terrible.
all right.
Moving on.
So Hope and Renee have a conversation. Hope is freaking out that he was underperforming and didn't win, and he believes that Dan doesn't like him. And Renee's trying to like you know keep his head on straight, not to worry. It's good that we kind of see that relationship with Renee. She's really is kind of checking in and making sure that she's looking after folks. Unfortunately, a lot of people did recognize that relationship as well, which kind of led to our ending situation.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's like every time that someone spends too much time with one other person, right? They become a target, right? It's
Well,
like you
by
can't
the
associate.
guys,
But yeah, well, you just can't associate with anybody. It's unless they know about it.
which like it's so oppressive, right? You know what I mean? That you can't like have they can have all the conversations they want. Everyone knows they're having those conversations, right? But you know, like other people can have conversations, right? So like moving on to the next sequence, you have the girls talking about how Shania thinks that Rob could be at risk, and that's why Rob was very emotional during the end of the comp because he doesn't he's worried that Dennis might come to him. Um, they're talking right in the open, and everyone kind of sees it. One of the connecting tissues to this episode is Kuzi. We see her constantly involved with Hope, with the girls, and we're seeing more and more that I think she might be an important figure in this season.
Yeah, it seems to be that the girls are talking, right? They're being very vocal to at least to each other right now about
Hmm.
how the house is unfolding right in front of them, right? Like Renee is like she had that sequence, and I don't know if you're going to get to this sequence where she's in her room and she's just talking into the mic by herself, like it's like not going to be that another season like this. It's not going to be that season, right? We're not going to let it happen again. So it's hopeful from an audience standpoint because once again, like it's nice to not see what we've seen before, right? But obviously, regardless of this being the 11th season, there's how many seasons of Big Brother USA and how many others. It's all there's all you never know, right? There's so many possibilities at the end of the day, but we don't know until the next week happens because it shifts week to week with HOH, right? Like Dan was at the bottom, and then now I saw all those things at the top this week, right? Like it just seems like every week is going to shift right now because other than Zach, there's not a clear power influence on the house right now, except for like in the shadows, if you will, which is the
In the
guy,
shadows.
which is the guys, which I don't like. What is it? They call it the Bros Company, Bros
Um,
Co.
I haven't heard an official name for the group. Sorry, I'm looking for my drink. I haven't seen an official name of the group. So hopefully on Wednesday I'll have an alliance breakdown because all these alliance names, like the confirmation of the names, are done on live feeds, right? And then they have a sequence and they film it for the show, but like there's often a period of time before it's presented on the show versus when it's actually formed. Okay. Next we have Zach, Santina, and Ty. Say that they're very happy that Dan won. It's best case scenario because DJ Dan is uh, Zach is in his good graces. They mentioned how they're going to go after Rob, so obviously Rob is a target. Uh, Rob is a target, obviously, because of what happened last week, where he was questioning Zach's leadership, and Zach did not like it, and Zach is now painting a target on Robert's back.
It's just interesting to see how Santina and Ty are so comfortable right now letting Zach take the reins, right? Because it's almost like they're like they feel like they're set for the final 4 or 5, right? And I don't understand it because where's that comfortability coming from? Like there's still a lot of numbers left. Anything can happen and change, right? And I don't know. I don't understand where their non panic comes from.
Well, they're playing from a an old playbook, and it seems that no one is really opposing that or making a stand or questioning what is going on loudly to people's faces, right? And we'll talk more about that in a later conversation Claudia has with Ty, which is so infuriating to me and patronizing that I couldn't believe she can get through that conversation. But everyone knows how close Zach is with everyone. Kuzi mentions it, and it seems that everyone is okay with it. They're able to dictate the terms in which people are interacting on the show, and like nothing, no one is stopping it. Right? People are either clueless, like Dan, or they're silent, like everyone else in the non-main alliance. All right, moving on. Next, Robert and Jonathan have a conversation about Zach is probably coming after Rob and how there's a divide coming and they might have to get folks on their side. We'll see. Right?
Well, it's
Like,
interesting. I didn't realize that once again, because like not only like there's no live feeds, right? But there's no indication that Jonathan and Robert are so close, right?
yeah. So what we're seeing is Robert and Jonathan are clothed. There's a trio which is Zach, Santina, and Ty. Hope is kind of they're an auxiliary member, but Hope is also close to Renee. Kuzi and Hope have a relationship, but obviously we see Renee, Claudia, and Shania are very close as well. And then you have the bottom feeders, which is Vanessa, Anika, Daniel, and should have been Dan, but he won.
Yeah, you thought that, yeah, it probably would have been that way if he didn't win, right? So
Yeah,
that's why I was happy that power shifted because it looked like Robert was going to win. And if he won, he was probably going to do what Zach said, right? So either
yep.
way, it was going to be another Zach week, right? But at the end of the day, it's more interesting with Dan, sorry, because he didn't have that prospect coming out of last week.
Wait, do you think Robert would have done exactly what Zach would have said?
I think that he would have done the safe, maybe not as extreme as backdooring someone, but he would have done the safe bet though. Right, that was best for the guys. He wouldn't
I
walk.
agree.
He wouldn't.
I
He wouldn't.
agree.
Like, he wouldn't turn on Zach and be like, like I see what you're doing, and like I'm gonna go after you. But he'd probably do like he probably would have voted like Daniel and Kuzi or Anika
Or Vanessa.
or Vanessa. Yeah, Vanessa. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that what would have happened if Robert was in power is Zach would have tried to push his influence. Robert would have rejected it, even partially. And Zach would have used that as an example of going to Ty and Santina and go, you see, Robert doesn't want to do things for the group. He wants to go on his own, right? Kind of painting the picture that going against Zach's thought process is going against the group. He would try to paint it in that way, right?
No,
When
that makes
Robert
sense.
is just an independent person. Okay. So next is sorry. Dan gets his HOH room.
Oh my god.
Yay.
Okay. 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 I got a comment. What if none of them kissed ass at the HOH room viewing an outfit show? What if all of them? First of all, what if all of them? Because I guess they have to show up. But what if they just don't cheer? They just kind of sit there
Oh,
and go
it's
like
it's happened. It's happened in
thumbs up.
episodes where
It
people like
has, yeah.
come and see my HOH room, and everyone's like, "Yay!" and they're slowly walking to the room.
Well, that's more realistic, right? This is like I know there's a lot of energy in the beginning of the season, but yeah.
Yeah. This is. Can you guess which person I am? Concerning this segment, there's someone on in this picture, um, that is my feelings, exemplifies my feelings during this segment. Oh no, I cut that out. Sorry. I didn't put all the pictures from it. There's a sequence where you see Daniel watching it and he has his hands covering his face like he's so bored. That's me during this sequence. I did not care about this at all. Okay, moving on because I I cut the pictures accordingly to move on. Hope is contemplating in the the Circle K room where he feels down, and Kuzi comes in and speaks to him and puts tries to put things in perspective. But Hope stupidly then goes to DJ Dan and asks him to put him on the block so that he can prove his worth. Like, this is where you need someone to like shake you and say, "Dude, you're killing your own game. Don't do something like that." I didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Once again, I just think it was a lack of maturity, and once again, I think the age played into factor here, right? Like, and once again, like anyone can doubt themselves in the games, right? Like, I'm surprised that they showed it as much, right? But he obviously is struggling because I think that once again, like I thought that where is he with the guys, right? I thought that he was with them, right? But he seems like he's on the outs, right? He's not a part of the conversation. He's not a part of the group, and it's getting to him, right? That's what it looks like. That's what it probably seems like. So
But if
I
he
so
stays,
so I think that with him, um, he's trying to make up for what he's done, but at the same time, he doesn't have to do anything.
yeah,
He could have just said nothing, and he could have let it slide, right? And talk to
yeah.
Dan and approach a way like, I've got you, man. If you know what I mean, if you got me.
I think you're right on. I think he feels that if he wins, right, then they'll acknowledge him, and he wants to be included in it, and he feels that distance, and that's why he's down. Like, I'm supposed to hold up my end, and I'm not. Well, anyways, next thing you have Daniel talking with Anika about the dynamics of the house. So he mentions the boys' alliance that everyone seems to know, which is Rob, John, Ty, and Zach. And then he mentions that the girls are kind of grouped together, specifically Shania, uh, Renee, and Claudia. And then the middle group is with Daniel, Anika, Kuzi, Vanessa, and DJ Jan. And they talk about how if Daniel's going to try and they're wondering if he's going to try and get in with the boys, or is he going to really rally the middle to kind of make his own group, and say that they need to get more involved and speak to him. But we never really see what comes out of that whole situation.
No, and that's the thing, right? It's like a hopeful conversation, right? Like I'm sure that Daniel had this conversation with Vanessa, but they don't show it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, at the end
Uh,
of the day, like at this point, everybody is a number, right?
yep.
So and that's important at this stage in the game. Like it's not until you get to the 8 or 9 person mark, right? Then it really becomes maybe like yeah maybe 7. Then it really becomes depending on the type of alliance. Then it becomes really hard.
Yep. So Zach, Ty, and Rob have a
Everyone
conversation.
put shirts on, everyone. Oh my god, all the guys are just lounging around with their shirts off, making me fucking feel bad. Sorry, I swore there.
Oh, you can
But
swear all you want.
but this is I don't understand this. This isn't like this isn't Miami Beach. This isn't this is we're supposed to be you're supposed to be a respectful Canadian, eh? What's this about? It's a little ridiculous, a little too much, little we're already 2 weeks in, and this is going to be how many more weeks of this?
So my question is, what would happen if many of the girls felt like, well, the guys are walking around with shirts off. Why can't I? Or why can't I walk around with the bra? You don't see many of the girls wearing their bra. They make sure they cover themselves up. But I'm not saying that for them to do that. I'm just saying that you can, if someone were to feel comfortable, I wonder what would happen regarding that.
Well, do you think that they know there's no live feeds?
I don't know. I don't know if that was told. I got a question here from Sam. Sorry, Sam, I haven't been looking at the chat too much. Um, Sam says it's intimidating me seeing the guys with their shirts off. Well, for me personally, I don't. I could take them. I'm not worried. I'm not
Yeah,
worried.
I'll back you up on that, Jaemeel. I think you can take them.
Why? Why?
I'm
Because
just
I'll.
a lover, not I'm just a lover, not a fighter. At the end of the day, it's just not my style.
I'll cheat. That's why. That's all I'll win.
You'll cheat.
I'll cheat.
You'll find a way.
I pushed Helen off, folks. It was me. So Hope they talk about potential noms and they mention Hope and Renee, and then eventually Zach mentions it in that Roberto was his actual target. Okay.
Like,
Okay.
apparently it's threatening.
I'll briefly think. Renee walked around with a towel around her, and I thought it was gonna fall off. They were
That's what they
never.
want. That's what the TV wants you to think, Sam.
It
That's what
was.
they want
It
you to
was
think.
never close, Sam. It was never close. All right. I live with enough women. Was never close. Okay. Wendy's breakfast time. DJ Dan takes sack. We get the special guest from season 8, Chris the Mastermind. Chris was a Chris was a wall character. I would suggest if anyone has free time, watch season 8 because it was a train wreck.
How
And
far did he get?
sorry?
How far did he get?
Oh, not far because the entire season got ended because of COVID.
Oh,
So that's what he's alluding to when he says he never really got a chance to play, because
okay.
this, like that season was marred with was cursed because people were leaving the game, people were leaving and coming back. There were fights. People got kicked out and then got brought back,
Oh my
and that was
God.
only a couple episodes into the season. Um, a lot of amazing characters, though. Just character wise, great season for the time it was there. Right. So I would strongly suggest if you haven't seen it, check out Big Brother Canada season 8. It's short, no winner. But seeing the craziness and hoping that eventually they come back, you would be the true winner.
I
Yeah,
want
no
one.
one got. When I say no one got, okay, Sam mentions no one got. Oh, okay, he jumped messages. No one got back. Yes, no one got uh, brought back like they were eliminated, but there were people who were seemingly kicked off the show because of the fighting, and then they scaled it back. That's what I mean. Um, anyways, Chris was also known for not recognizing his mother when she was there serving him Wendy's, which we kind of saw a brief segment with. So
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Zach breaks out the famous gummies, which was very important from last season, and kind of shifted the game when the gummies came into play, and mentioned was trying to find out who Rob was close to, what is the pecking order in terms of individuals, and we saw that Renee, Hope, and Rob were on a lower tier, and Zach could use that to kind of position um, Dan into a different way. Now, keep in mind there was a lot of other people that Zach did not mention in his pecking order that were probably lower, but Zach works with them, so it never came up, especially when presented in the show.
Yeah, Zach's it's interesting because Zach just continues to talk and talk and talk his way through the game, right? And it's interesting because I was like I wrote down Dan is foolish to think Zach will take him to the end. There's no way Zach is taking Dan to the end. Right now, I think that his guy is at least still find a 3 is tie. But I think that he would probably want someone like Santina because he probably will will beat her in the end.
I think it's definitely going to be Santina because at that time, I think there's going to be a lot of women on the jury, and they're gonna hate Santina. They're gonna hate her, absolutely hate her, and that's exactly what Zach wants. All right, um, Dan has awkward conversation segment. So first he has one with Rob, which I decided not to take a screenshot of because it was just so damn goofy. And then he follows it up with another awkward conversation with Hope, where it kind of walks back his decision, but doesn't really say as much. So, like, these were two terrible segments, and I understand why they were on the show. I just think it was just a waste of time. I think they should have just did like a split screen and say awkward between the two and just save us like a good 5 minutes of the show. Any comments about this segment?
Put a shirt on. And don't make this mistake again if you come back. Don't volunteer on the block. Like, it's a rookie mistake.
Wait, I don't think there's been, outside of the competition, I don't think I've seen Hope without a shirt. And when he came in for the first night,
wants to show off all the work he's done. Apparently, I don't know who he's like in. Like he's trying to. It's almost like he's talking like, I need to impress somebody. It's just like, who? Like, I understand your family, but like it seems like there's like other things like going. I don't know. Anyways, there's other goals in mind.
It just wants to win cops. Okay. This segment. So we get another segment with Ty and Claudia, which we seemingly get every episode. They're talking, and Ty doesn't provide any information outside of cryptic information, and says that
my pick's a douche.
Says Santina is not going up, and it wouldn't be safe for DJ Dan if he doesn't otherwise. It seems like such a one-sided like relationship, and she says details and he kind of just smirks like, that's so cute that she's saying that. It's so patronizing. I don't know how this dynamic works. He seems like such a creep and such a sleaze, in terms of being presented on the show. Hold off people who are friends with Ty, right? But he's not an entertaining character on the show. Your thoughts on this segment?
First off, put a shirt on.
Put a shirt on. Hashtag put a shirt on.
This is the trend of this episode. Oh my goodness. Like I didn't write anything down because it's just the same as last week's episode, right? She's not getting any information. He's not getting information. We already know you have a crush on each other, right? But you don't want to, like, you know what I mean? But like,
I agree.
It seems like she will cut. She's the type of person that will cut ties sooner than later. But exactly, thank you, Sam.
Hashtag put a shirt on.
But I think that she needs to get her act. She needs to figure it out soon, right? Or she's gonna get strung along too far and she's gonna get cut.
Yeah, like this type of safety is not worthwhile because he's gonna cut you, and you're gonna be left with no power to defend yourself as you go later on in the game. You have to take control of your own game. All right. So Renee goes and has a conversation with DJ Jan. And once again, also very awkward. It's not good TV when he's doing these one-on-ones.
No, and I'm curious about, because there's had to have been other conversations with all the other house guests, because there's no way like that it was just like the people that were like directly involved, like Hope and Renee, right?
Yeah.
Like, where's the conversation with Vanessa? Where's the conversation with Daniel? Where's the conversation with, like,
Anika, Shania?
Even Ty's got to walk in there at some point, because he can't seem obvious, right? Like that he's not, you know what I mean? Like, so but obviously they don't have enough time. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know. They gotta spread it out a little better.
Yeah. So
Unless it's that bad, they don't want to show it.
unless it's that bad. So it's time for our nomination. Um, so our nominations for this week end up being Hope and Renee. Now, he gives Renee the same excuse as to why Anika and JM were put up by Santina, right? And he says, "We got close on a personal level, but I don't know where your game is at." Right? To me, that's like a dog whistle that people are playing. Like, you're not in an alliance. You need to rally the troops and protect yourself because you don't want to go. Right? And they want to make sure either Renee goes home or whoever they're trying to backdoor.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
that they don't. Yeah, they don't want Hope to go home because he's a number that they can use.
Yep. Yep.
You just got
And
to do this
Renee is being very social, and they want to eliminate the people who aren't just gonna Claudia it up, which is kind of goofy smile and hang out, right? Like with Ty.
Yeah.
So
But yeah.
so what are your expectations for the next episodes? We got our veto for tomorrow's episode, which we'll quickly recap on Thursday. And so we have Hope, we have Renee competing once again, and then we're gonna see who the other three people are who are going to compete. Uh, Hopefully, it's something that Renee can succeed in. Otherwise, she's gonna remain on the block, and it'd be interesting if she takes herself off or someone takes her off. What are they gonna do? Are they just gonna put Roberto up and just hope in Roberto? And you know, a lot of people are gonna have a lot of thoughts about that whole situation.
Yeah, I think that what's going to happen is that if Hope doesn't win, it because Renee's probably not going to win. I'm sorry, Renee, but if Hope doesn't win, then they're not going to use whoever else it is not going to use the veto, and I would assume that there's only going to be 4 contestants, right? Or no,
No,
so
I
there's
think there's gonna be five. I think
be
there's gonna be
5.
five. So
Okay.
it's gonna be the two nominees, plus their picks through the bag, and then the HOH will pick someone from the bag. The HOH doesn't compete
No,
in
wait,
veto
they
in
don't
Big
pick
Brother Canada.
they don't pick their own. Kuzi was like or not Kuzi, yeah, Anika was speaking like she
She
picked Ty
did.
last week.
So what happens is during the veto picking portion of it, they it traditionally would put their hand in a bag and it would have the name of all the house guests that can compete, and they'll take out a name and they'll say who is competing, who they picked to compete, unless it says house guest choice, and then they get to specifically pick someone to play with them in that nomination thing. What they're doing for Big Brother Canada is they actually have like a chessboard, and the competitors go and pick up one of the chess pieces, and underneath it says a name or it says house guest choice. So last week Anika picked house guest choice and picked Ty to play on her behalf.
Interesting. Well, that's the problem. I don't know why they don't show that stuff. But okay,
It was on a digital daily, a deleted sequence. It wasn't even a digital daily.
so dumb.
Okay, I will try and at least have a clip from that next episode uh, on Thursday. Any closing thoughts?
I mean, like we got to see what's going on with the power of veto, right? Like it's going to be interesting. Like Hope obviously has a good chance if it's something physical or endurance, but I don't see it being. I think it's going to be something more endurance.
Hopefully, it's nothing intelligent because he's totally gonna get exposed.
Yeah, I don't think
Um,
It's not a strong suit. He tries.
yes. Sam, our good follower Sam, is well hashtag put a shit on, but he believes his girl Renee deserves better, like him. So we know who Sam is behind. I don't want either of them to go. I don't want Rob to go. Um, so I'm just waiting to see how this plays out. Um, I'm already one person shy. We're gonna see how it goes. Um, but that's it for our episode. Now it's time to kiss the ring in terms of the different ways you can see us. Uh, Obviously, you can listen to us as a podcast, Super Mater Brothers. We're also on YouTube and Facebook. But we are also part of a federation, a united federation of podcasts. Sorry, I played the video and not the picture. I was doing so well. All right, let me get to it. It's so weird.
All
There
good.
you go. United Federation of Podcasts. And in that federation, we have a bunch of shows. Hopefully, some of the content you will enjoy. So, this is Super Mater Brothers. We do television reviews, mostly reality television, but we also often do some Marvel stuff. And that is with the Mary Marvel Mater Society. Right. So, last time we did Quantumania. So, our next episode should be in a month or so when we do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Um, Also, part of the Federation is the KBBBL podcast, which just finished wrapping up season 1 of The Simpsons, and they'll be moving on. That podcast is headed by the skillful Davan Skelhorn, who just recently had a birthday.
They're doing the Lord's work, Jaemeel. Every single episode. That is impressive.
Okay.
They're gonna be doing that for. They're gonna be doing that for a few years.
For a few years, or until they get tired of it. Davin is also on X-Rated, the X-Men review show, which is currently doing X-Men the animated series, Fox's great show, and they're going to continue on once X-Men 97, the new Disney Plus show that's going to be releasing later on this year. So each week they review a new episode or an old episode of Fox's show. So you should always check it out. That's Davin and Andre. Andre hosts the Graphic Histories podcast, which is a kind of an interview podcast where he talks to artists, writers, actors, people in the industry. Great interview segments. You should definitely check it out. I believe the most recent one was the wrestler Kurgan, who was in a variety of shows and programs. He was in 300, for example. Now, Davin is also, he does a lot of work for the Federation. He's on Hold Up with the World Mind, Chris Murphy, where each week they review 3 movies, 2 pre-2000 and 1 post-2000, and they determine if the movie holds up. Now, I was incorrect last episode saying that the current episode that they were doing last week was about television. It's actually this week. So you have the movies UHF with Weird Al Yankovic. You have Stay Tuned with John Ritter, and you have Good Night and Good Luck with George Clooney, Jeff Daniels, and I always mess up his name. It's not Jason Statham. It's the classy actor Jason Statham or something. Anyways, great show. Check it out Wednesdays. On Wednesdays also you have the Hellbound podcast with Michael Chan and Alex Blackburn reviewing horror movies. They also do like mini reviews of horror movies on the weekends. You should check that out. And upcoming, we have Trivial Debates. Trivial Debates is our debate show where you have 3 contestants and 1 host, where the host makes the theme and the debaters debate until there is 2 left. And then they battle it out mano a mano until there is 1 grand champion. Our next episode is on April 1st. and certainly I will be playing, and I won't be a fool. It is a wrestling theme, and the World Mind. Chris Murphy is going to be the host. I'm going to be competing with Ryan. I believe his name is Ryan, and also Andre. Andre is a professional wrestler, but despite his skill in the ring, he will not beat me in the debate. So look forward to that. And lastly, but certainly not least, is Live Long and Podcast, which is a great section of our podcast empire, which is a Star Trek focused podcast. Different elements of it. There's different focuses where we have the review section where we review episodes. On Mondays, it's Enterprise. On Tuesdays, typically it's D Space Nine at 9, but it's on a hiatus until next week. And then on Thursdays, they're doing Star Trek Picard, the new series that is currently on. I believe its fifth episode is coming up, a fifth or sixth episode is coming up this Thursday. So you should definitely check it out. We also do other things like deep dives, which is really focused on the locutors of Trek area of it. And we also do radio theater, so like radio broadcasts of old scripts. In this case, what recently happened was we took a Lower Decks comic book series, and it was transcribed into a radio play by Davan and company, and we presented that about a weekend ago. So you can definitely check out the live version and a more uh, a more comprehensive version will be released shortly after in a couple of weeks. So that is the wonderful, great aspects of our federation of podcasts. Please check it out. Any closing remarks? A lot as a mouthful, a mouthful to go through.
No, I think you pretty much covered it all. Special shout out to Jody Simpson. We missed his comment from earlier.
Oh, you
Uh,
did what? He had Jody had a comment. Where is
Jody
it?
had a comment. There was a moment, and we couldn't break the conversation. I'm sorry, but I don't know if
Yes.
he's still listening. There we go.
Sup,
Uh,
boys, looking sexy as ever, he says. Thank you very much, Jody. I appreciate the support coming and checking on us. Thank you
Hope to
very
see you
much. You should
soon.
always check out Jody. Jody's a regular contributor. He's on Enterprise on Mondays and occasionally stops in to voice his opinion on the newest episodes of what Star Trek has to offer. All
What are
right.
your final thoughts, Jaemeel?
My final thoughts. I kind of want to just see more. I want to see more content. I need more content. I'm just that type of person when it comes to it. I during these months I eat, breathe, and sleep a lot of Big Brother. So it's been kind of hard with the morsels that I'm getting. But I'm trying to catch up with the digital dailies. The show has its certain style, so I'm getting used to it. But we'll see. I feel like I'm patiently waiting to see how this season unfolds. Tomorrow we have Survivor, so join us. We'll be starting around the same time, about 9:15, 9:30. And we'll be recapping that about the same time period, an hour for our shows. But on behalf of myself and the foster man over there, thank you for joining us. And take care and be well. And let's wrap up the show.